Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
TGO.
CGO or George. Today's the 23rd of April, 2026. A quick reminder: please like us, subscribe us. We release long form on YouTube every day, short form on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. News of the day: Bayern Munich won today, advancing to their first German Cup final in 6 years, I believe. Barcelona won in La Liga. A lot of people are saying this La Liga race is already done, and I think George and I both agree that it would take quite a bottle job for Barcelona not to win this. So they have a pretty big lead. But George and I will be talking most of the time about two different things. Number one, we talked on this, earlier yesterday about Liam Rosenior. George said if he is not sacked tomorrow, that the board has failed. That he was sacked today. We will talk about the future, what that means. And then the second thing, Burnley got relegated for the second time in 3 years, which is interesting and big news for the Premier League. George, let's talk first about Chelsea. You were not surprised by this move, Liam Rosenior. You thought this was deserved. You thought this may have come a game or two too late. You never agreed with his appointment in the first place. I think we're agreeing that it's the right move there. The names I've seen floated out are I've Iola, I've seen Terzic, the Dortmund manager, and the third name was it Silva, Marco Silva. I've seen floated out.
Yeah,
But
Marco
but
Silva, even says Fabregas is among those who are
I haven't
being.
seen credible sources linking Fabregas. But are those the type of names that you see Chelsea pursuing? These are managers who have never managed a top club, but have had punched above their weight at several clubs. All these guys, all the three names I just mentioned, is that the type of profile you feel like Chelsea should be pursuing right now?
For me, if I'm being honest, I think I'll prefer somebody who is very experienced when it comes to managing players. I will need a manager that can really take control of the team, have full control. And because if you look at those who Chelsea board have employed in the recent time, they are more like the yes man kind of coaches, and that's not healthy for the club. You will notice that at some point when Enzo Maresca was trying to be more realistic about what should be done, then he started having problem with the board. So what Chelsea need now is somebody that can stamp his authority. We need managers in the level of Jurgen Klopp to come in and take over the managerial position of Chelsea, not people that uh, are just looking for a way to build their CV. Because if a coach is looking for a way to build the CV, they will accept whatever the board says. And that's what happened with Liam Rosenior. Liam Rosenior would have built himself by staying at Strasbourg, but he saw the opportunity at coming to Chelsea, felt it's something he can use to build his CV. Unfortunately for him, the
Yeah,
pressure at Chelsea is not what any kind of coach can just
yeah.
absorb. So quite
I've talked
unfortunate
about
for
this
him.
I've talked to you about this. I do feel like the two coaches that I do feel like were very capable of stamping their authority, Pochettino and Maresca, more or less quit Chelsea. I mean, they left on mutual agreements. But I do feel like any coach with that ability, I've said this before, I don't think is going to want to come to Chelsea right now, just because they see what happened to Maresca, they see what happened to Pochettino. And both Maresca and Pochettino have not. The next job after Chelsea is for Pochettino's U.S. national team, which is not an elite job. It is high profile for some Americans, but it's not a job that you view as Chelsea as a stepping stone for. Potter certainly didn't. His career didn't launch after failing at Chelsea. I'm not sure how much of a CV builder Chelsea is right now. I think if they landed Areola, that would be a huge coup for them in terms of quality. I think that there's again, I really rate Ireola. I think that his pedigree is higher than Maresca when he was hired by Chelsea. I think that his pedigree is certainly higher than Rosnier's when he's hired by Chelsea. I think he would be a great get for this Chelsea team. He's shown he can develop talent. He's shown he can play fun football. He's shown he can be. And to your point, George, I think it is very important this Chelsea role to be able to play politics with the owners. Unfortunately, that I think that particular aspect would scare off a lot of really good
My,
managers.
my, my concern with coaches like Andoni Iraola is, will they be able to stamp the authority, tell the board, this is what I want? That's just the concern I have. Because if, for example, Chelsea is going for a coach like Luis Enrique, we all know what Enrique would demand of the board. So
And Luis
this,
has already said no to Chelsea before, and nothing has changed on Chelsea's side since then. He said, no, I want more control than you're willing to give me, and nothing has changed since Enrique said no. I believe that was 2 years ago. It might have been 3 years ago.
I think it's about 3 years ago. That was why they went
Yes,
for Pochettino, because he came
yes.
to London for an interview. But at the end of the day, they couldn't reach an agreement because of this issue of not giving the coach the free hand to demand for players they want in their team and those they don't want.
It's
So,
it's not just transfer control because Tuchel didn't want transfer control, but these managers, Maresca specifically wanted uh, he wanted the decision to play players through injuries specifically down to him and the trainers. I believe that was the issue that he left over. Correct me if I'm wrong.
but but
He
but
said
but apart from that, remember Maresca also demanded for a defender, central defender, and he wasn't given that what he wanted. That was also part of the problem Enzo Maresca had with the board. So that's why I tell you,
Chelsea
every
Chelsea will
manager,
fail if they don't bring in an experienced central defender. Their ceiling is sixth place.
yes. So
Maresca was right.
yes, he was very correct. He was right because this guy was with this squad last season. He knew where the deficiencies are, and then he knew when Levi Corey was injured that it's going to be a very difficult one for Chelsea. So that was why he needed a capable central back. He wasn't too comfortable with those who were available, but the board they turned deaf ear to the request of Enzo Maresca. And that was why the team struggled in some games when Maresca was there. So I think the board should have themselves to blame. I'm hoping that they will learn from this and try to be careful with whatever decision making they get themselves into, so that the club doesn't regress. Because Chelsea is regressing, so far as I'm concerned. The club is regressing, which is quite unfortunate. You just bring in any kind of coach to come and handle a team like Chelsea. To me, it's highly embarrassing. If you had brought in maybe a legend who has played for the club, we might say, okay, maybe you brought the coach based on the
Would
fact that he
you
has done something for the club in the past. People can,
would you rather see Frank Lampard than Andoni Irola?
for
Would you rather
me,
see that?
I don't think Lampard is ready for that kind of pressure because he has coached Chelsea before. I think he has had about two stints with Chelsea, and
Right.
apart from the first, I think
He
the
did okay in his first sprint. He wasn't amazing, but he was
yes,
okay. He was not, awful. He obviously is very successful at Coventry this season. He obviously knows tactics very well. He's capable of being politics. He's grown a lot in the last 5 years. Frank Lampard is one of the most best football minds I've ever seen on the field. A lot of that, not all of that translates to his management, but a lot of it clearly has. He's brought Coventry back to the Premier League for the first time in 25 years.
yeah, but you know, Joe, sometimes there are
George, George. You're saying I want a unicorn to manage Chelsea.
yeah.
There's nobody out there who is has top club experience, who's willing to come to Chelsea, who's free at this available, and you can get him this summer. Who's has experience, but not so old that he can't relate to players. That is a unicorn you're looking for. And the last couple manager searches, Chelsea has had to settle for something is not ideal. And there's no indication to me that this manager search is going to be any different.
Well, but we know there are still speculations that Diego Simone is also being considered for. Though that might be.
If you're Diego Simeone and you are basically guaranteed Champions League football every season, you are clearly the third biggest dog, and you can win the occasional title, uh, yeah, in cup. Why would you leave that for Chelsea right now? Why?
So that's why we said any top manager that will be coming to Chelsea, you must give them that assurance that they will be able to make their request of the players they want, and that request will be granted, because that's what every top manager would want. They want when they need this player,
No,
you're able to provide it for them so that they can
Diego
deliver the
Simeone
job.
could get Diego Simeone right now could get third place the next 5 years and not win a single trophy, and he's never getting sacked unless he gets like 3 or 4 straight seasons at sixth place and misses Champions League. Maybe he'll get sacked, but he is one of the most, if not the most stable job in Europe right now.
Yes, 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 I
Why would
agree.
you leave that for a position that has fired 10 coaches in the last 10 years? Permanent coaches. If we include interims, it's a lot more than that, George. And a lot of these guys have come in with pedigree, have had some success. Tuchel won a Champions League, still can a couple months later. Sorry, it was like 15 months later. Um, they've canned a lot of players. It's one of the most unstable places in the world. Like, he's guaranteed to. Like, he's obviously happy there. He's been there 15 years. I see no way Simeone goes to Chelsea.
Well, for me personally, Diego Simone is a coach I respect. But one problem I have is
Yes.
he's too defensive, too conservative in the way he approaches his football. That's just the only concern I have with his style of play. So personally, I would prefer maybe an Andoni Raola, who we've seen the way he has performed with Bournemouth. They are more fearless when they play. They come out and play you football. So I would prefer that kind of coach, even though he hasn't coached any top club before. But with what we've seen him do, Bournemouth, such a coach, you can give him that opportunity to see what he can do. So for me, I think I will rate him higher than other candidates so far this job is concerned.
Okay. Another name I've seen, George, is Felipe Luis, who has been the manager of Flamengo. I think he got sacked earlier this calendar year, or he left on his own accord. He was a former Chelsea player. Young guy, he's like 40, I think, something like that. I'm looking at it. He's born my same birthday, August 9th. Um, he was had a moderately successful stint in Flamingo. Do you feel like this is a name? I know you're probably going to say not experienced enough, but you're going to have to sacrifice on something. Is this a name that you would come into with an open mind as Chelsea?
You remember he was a former Chelsea player.
I remember.
Yeah, Luis Felipe was a former Chelsea player, and the issue is that we've not seen what he has. He hasn't coached any club in Europe before, so you can't really tell what he will be able to offer. So he has only worked in Brazil. And the reason why he was asked to leave was because at some point Chelsea reached out to him and he was talking to Chelsea Football Club without the board in Flamingo knowing about it. I think that was what caused the problem. At some point, they said no, they will be offering him the job at Strasbourg. Strasbourg wasn't what he wanted. He thought maybe Chelsea job is what they wanted to offer to him. So that
It's just another name I've seen.
yeah, so but the issue is that you can't really tell what he'll be able to do handling a European club. With Flamingo, we saw what he did at the Club World Cup. The team played very well. But when you employ such kind of coach, you're taking a big risk. I would rather prefer to employ an Andoni Raola who has coached a club in the Premier League, and we've seen what the team he has tutored, what they've been able to do. So I'll
The
prefer
most
such a manager.
successful, the most successful coach of Chelsea. Sorry, the best coach of Chelsea under Bluco. Never coached a top flight club before Chelsea. That's Maresca. Interesting. So I'm just saying that, George. All right, George, let's actually move on because Burnley did get relegated today. We still need to talk the last couple minutes of the podcast about that. They lost 1-0 to Man City. I thought they've actually early on in the season. I thought Burnley was going to go down without a fight. I still think that they could have shown more. I don't think Scott Parker is a great manager. He's everything about this club from Scott Parker and all the players scream too good for the championship, not good enough for the Premier League. There are a lot of these teams that can possess in the championship need to change up their game in the Premier League. You can't do it. And I feel like Scott Parker just wasn't able to change up his tactics. It's disappointing. They did fight harder this time than they did a couple of years ago under a company. I felt if you watch this team play, it clearly, you know, I do feel like they had a fight in them. Yes, they didn't have today. Even it was an even game with Man City. Man City just happens to have Holland and Doku, and Burnley does not. What's the difference today? I thought it was a fairly even game. George, what is your take on this Burnley team? Do you
I
feel like
don't
it's a chance
I,
they could come back?
I don't agree with you that it was an even game because Man City had about 28 shots and then 9 shots on target. So I don't think it was an even game. The issue is that Man City were not clinical enough because if they were clinical in this game, they would have really won with a very high margin. But we must also must almost also give credit to the defense of Burnley. They defended well. Manchester City outplayed them. They were fully dominant in this game. It's just that they weren't clinical enough. If they were clinical, I'm sure they would have scored at least 3 to 4 goals in this game, which for me, it was something that was very risky for them. Even Guardiola was really full of a lot of anxiety, especially towards the ending of the game, because he knew 1 goal lead, anything can happen. So, but for Burnley, sad one for them because the last 3 times they've played in the Premier League, they got relegated. 2021,
Yes.
2022, they finished 18th position. They were relegated that season after they got promoted. And then 2022, 2024, they got relegated again, finished 19th place, which was under Vincent Company, the current coach of Bayern Munich. They got promoted again this particular season. Now they've been relegated, and from all indication, they will finish the same position they finished. I think 2023-2024 season, which was 19th position. So it's a very sad one, and what it means is that they've been relegated 5 occasions in the Premier League, which is a very terrible one. Which means they've joined the likes of Norwich City, West Bromwich Albion, and Leicester City when it comes to being relegated on 5 different seasons. So that's a very sad one for Burnley. And then what it means is that they will have to go back to the championship, and maybe, who knows, they might come back again. But
I don't know, George. I don't think that the fans of this team view this as small. I'll say this: like, I'm a fan of a team, one of two teams that has never been relegated from the Premier League. Um, I should say, yeah, one of two teams that has played in the Championship and never been relegated. There's a couple of teams that have always been in the Premier League since day one. Brighton, I believe, is the other team who was never who got promoted and has never gotten relegated. I think that a lot of these fans are just happy for a couple seasons just to play and to see these big teams come. For a lot of these fans, the Championship um, is peak because you go in every week with hope and you can beat any team in the championship, which is super exciting. But like a lot of these fans of smaller teams view it as like this is a connection to the club. It's about coming on a Saturday, and like trophies are great and winning is getting to the top is awesome. But they know deep down that they can't compete unless you're Leicester with the absolute elite teams. At least over a 38 game season, and like this like a couple Burnley 20 years ago, thinking about if you told them you're going to be in the Premier League for 8 or 9 seasons or whatever it's been, including they had a 5 or 6 year stint under Sean Dyche, I think they would be very impressed and very happy. So I know that if you told me 10 years ago Brentford's going to be in the Premier League for 10 seasons over the next 20 years, I would have been, and even if we get relegated a couple times and get promoted back, it's still just very exciting for the club just to reach this height.
Joe, I want to ask you a question quickly, which is maybe a bit digressing from the issue of Burnley. Now, with the performance we saw with Manchester City today not being clinical enough, do you think they will still win the Premier League? Because now they are currently at the top of the table. Uh, they have the same point, the same goal difference with Arsenal. But the only advantage they have now is that they've scored more goals, but they have the same goal difference with Arsenal. Do you
I
think with this
do.
kind of performance, you think they can finish ahead of Arsenal?
George, I don't believe City or Arsenal has hit a 5 game win streak all season. I don't think if you go back to the start of last season, either of these teams hit a 5 game win streak. Neither of these teams are going to win every single one of the last 5 games. I don't believe it's going to come down to um, if both teams winning in goal difference. And I think that this City team has a more mentality to pull out wins when they're not finishing well, when they're not performing. I think that their team is more capable of pulling rabbits out of hats. I think that Arsenal have, for a lot of reasons, the conservatism of Arteta, but also the thinner squad, are a little bit more tired at this point of the season. I think the champions being in the Champions League is a little bit more exhausting than still being in the FA Cup, and that Pep's just a little bit better of a manager at motivating his players than Arteta is. So for a lot of reasons, I think that Man City has a little more mental energy to push through these difficult games that they saw today, and that'll play out the next couple of games. But
Because
again, George, there will be more drama because I think that both Man City and Arsenal are going to drop points.
because when you look at the remaining fixture for both sides, I feel the team Arsenal will be playing, maybe I won't say they will be as tough as the team Man City will be playing, because Man City will be playing, I think, Brentford, they'll be playing Crystal Palace, they'll be playing Aston Villa, and then I think they'll be playing which other team again, um, compared to Arsenal playing against Crystal Palace, Newcastle United. I think these are teams, if Arsenal puts their hands together, they'll be able to get victory against this team. So when I look at the
Arsenal
remaining
lost to
fixture,
Arsenal lost to Wolves. Like, so I think it's just we're seeing a very uh, an English Premier League with a lot of parity this year. The gap between first and 20th is as low as it's been since I remember, in at least the last 10 years. Just I think the top teams are worse, the bottom teams are better. There's a lot less variance in terms of quality. We've just gone through a 10-year period where Liverpool dominated last year. Pep and Klopp's teams dominated for years. We had various managers coming to Chelsea and dominate. Conte had one of the better teams I've seen in the Premier League. Just a lot of high quality, and I don't think either the City or this Arsenal team are as good as those elite teams.
let's see how it goes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, George. Let's close out the standard questions to ask everybody. Number one, who would you like to see manage Chelsea? Something realistic. Don't go and say. You know, I know that Chelsea fans would love to see like Zidane come in. I think George and I would both agree that's not really realistic. But who would you like to see come in, and who do you think would be exciting to see come into that Chelsea team that can reinvigorate them and put a little energy in? Number two, what went wrong for Burnley? Do you feel like they're set up? They're going to come back up and yo-yo back down again? And number three, again, do you agree with kind of my take on Premier League? Do you feel like either Arsenal or Man City are going to win out? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for listening.